I haven't checked with Fran in about 4 days. I think we're up to about
There you go.
4.
Sorry. Got it right. There.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a good prayer. A good prayer. Y'all feel like you're ready?
Can you give me 30 seconds?
Okay, give you 30 seconds. Orange fingernails.
Oh, yeah, I need to go get them redone.
I need mine done.
Tomorrow's nail day for me and the dog. Taking the dog in.
My dog does not get her nails.
I wish Jojo did.
You can go ahead.
30 seconds are up.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right.
Meeting is called to order.
Folks.
Where are my cards? Oh. All rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we do need a prayer.
Amen.
Y'all join me in giving thanks to our Lord, God of justice and mercy. Thank you for the gift of life and the opportunities to serve the people of Port Aransas. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us the spirit of service. Remind us that we are the stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us and to treat all persons with the reverence your creations deserve. Renew us with strength of your presence and walk with us to build a community worthy of your blessings. We ask that you watch over those that watch over us, both here and abroad. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Public hearing. FPLT 22-000-206, final plat of Pamia Beach PUD Unit 6A, being a 21.5 acre of land outside of Isaac W. Boone Survey, abstract number 43, certificate number 241, and the Edward Hall Survey, abstract number 160, certificate number 227, and be on a portion of the 143.109 acre tract of land described as Tract 2 in the special warranty deed from HCB Beach, Texas, LLC to KM Beach, LLC, recorded in document number 2013007798, official public records of Nueces County, Texas. The applicant is KM Beach, LLC. Property location is 3900 Highway 361. And second, another final plat, 22-000-207 of Pamia Beach PUD Unit 6B, being 13.14 acres of land out of the Edward Hall Survey, abstract number 160, certificate number 227, and being a portion of a 143.109 acre tract of land described as Tract 2 in a special warranty deed from HC Beach, Texas, LLC to KM Beach, LLC, recorded in document number 2013007798, official public records of Nueces County, Texas. The applicant is KM Beach, LLC, property location 3900 Highway 361. And finally, PPLT and FPLT 22-000-203, preliminary and final plat of Palms, being a replat of lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Island Moorings, Unit 6, a map of which is recorded in volume 50 pages 120, 121, map records of Nueces County, Texas. The applicant is BGC Real Estate LLC, property location 242 and 250 Marina Drive. And finally, Flex 22000535, flexible development request. The property owner is requesting a reduction of the lot frontage requirement and the allowance of a private street. Applicant Kelby McCain, property location 711 East Avenue B and 12th Street. Is there anyone that would like to speak to these? Yes? Yeah, 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Will Daly, and I'm here to speak about the flexible unit development that's proposed for Avenue B at 12th. Now, I spoke to you about the flexible unit developments last month, and I don't like those ordinances. I think their definition in here is almost non-existent, and the amount of leeway you can grant is the whole thing. So I'd like to see you go back to a variance procedure. We have a Board of Appeals for that. And it's a very similar thing. I don't think we're ever going to build affordable housing in this town anymore. It's just not possible. Now, the one thing a FUD does say, it says you have to have a minimum, at minimum, a public or community benefit. Well, paving a wetland is most assuredly not a public benefit. The anticipated effect of the proposed development will impose adverse effect on the value and established character of adjacent properties. Heck, it floods all the way to 12th Street at sea from that drainage. The real problem is drainage. It's one of several properties comprising an impromptu city detention basin, and it's not served by city storm drains. A real community benefit would be solving this problem. Unfortunately, solving this by draining into an undersized and overwhelmed storm drainage system is likely to be extremely expensive. Now, our subdivision ordinance, section 21 and 163 states that no subdivision shall be approved unless adequate drainage will be provided to an adequate drainage water course or facility. So Mr. McCann cannot subdivide this property until the drainage problem is solved. End of story there. We allow 98% of any lot to be paved. It's no wonder that the system fails. It was never designed for that. McCann's property is about 2.5 acres there. And it's one of many larger parcels in this neighborhood. And these parcels function as ephemeral wetlands. They're not always wet, but when there's a lot of rain, they fill up. Now, you'll probably see some pictures tonight about what happens here, but believe me, this does happen here, and water does come here on a regular basis, if not every year. Now, when we put in developments like this, we have associated costs with them. We should have the infrastructure in place ahead of the development. And it's not free, it costs money. We should not expect it to be free. But we got to put the infrastructure in before we put the development in. So for my money, buy this property.
Thank you, Will.
Mayor Pro Tem Holt, I would like to clarify the language regarding Mr. Parsons' performance review. It does not reflect the agenda item that I submitted. The agenda item I submitted did not include Mr. Parsons' employment, and I don't want there to be any confusion among residents.
And when is this? Which number is it?
It is,
It's an executive session. It's legal language, I believe, and I don't want to get off the thing. I believe it's legal language. We just have to say that it's performance review and or whatever.
I just want the residents to
Yeah.
understand that his employment
Yeah.
is not up for grabs tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the three?
Did everyone get the photos that I emailed to them?
Yes, sir.
Who
Yes.
did not receive a photo? I can't add much to what
Can you
Willie
state your
Daly
name
said.
and address,
I'm
please?
sorry, Ed Reed, 644 Lantana. My wife and I own a home there. Our property abuts this proposed development at my southeast corner and its northwest corner. And the photograph I sent is the flooding in my front yard and I.B. McGee's old house, which is now owned by Bo and Susie Julian. And that area, that'll stick for 2 months. That pond will be there for 2 months. So my biggest concern about this project, the fact that there's no public or community benefit from a flexible development proposed, is the drainage in this area and what's going to be done about it. And I've yet to see a drainage plan submitted for the development. Now, I don't know how your process works. Maybe that comes later. I just don't know. But I think that has to be addressed before you can approve the development. If the drainage is going to be bad, you can't approve the development and then later on try to manufacture some drainage plan that solves the problem. So that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Can I, Mr., I can get your, so this is the picture that Mr. McCann has proposed. Where is this picture pointing to right here?
That's my house right there.
Correct?
And this is the I.B. McGee house right here.
Correct.
So this entire area.
So
right in
this
here.
area right here is this photo?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have a lot.
Name and address,
Oh,
please.
Wadle Brown
Thank you.
at 116 12th Street, Port Aransas. Owned a home there since the early 70s. And that home was built in the late 20s, I believe. You can see it on the map. I'm right across from the building site on the other side of B. And I want to reinforce what the two previous speakers said, that also where they have a lot of flooding, I do in my front, right where it floods across B there all the time. Yeah, that's B. It floods in the front. Now there's nothing there, so I've never worried much about it, but water will sit there for long periods of time. And it's a low area. And we do have birds and some wildlife in there. So drainage is huge for me as well. I don't know when or if I'll ever do anything with the front part of that property, but I do, we do need to have the water drain, and we have no curbs or gutters there. That area and around that corner is used a whole lot for, I mean, tourists walk, they walk their dogs. The high school track team runs around there all the time. It's kind of a walking area, and it's very nice because it's really quiet. It won't be once we have the building across the street. And I can't say who should build and not build. But the problem with Port Aransas, and I'm sorry, nothing was done about it early on, is that we don't have specified areas for short-term rentals. So right now, like across the street, anybody can put anything in. I can't on my side. But it's like living across the street from a housing complex. And we're going to have, you can see how tiny it is down there. It's going to be crowded. There's going to be a lot more cars. You got trash cans, you got all this kind of thing, noise. And so in what used to be a neighborhood, the kind of things that most people look for a home in, will no longer be that. And I would love to see Port Aransas specify some areas that they would leave as neighborhoods. And I'm talking about neighborhoods with homes and yards, and not, short-term rentals or apartment complexes where you have, 2 or 3 cars for each unit. There's going to be 6 units there. Okay.
Thank you, Wavell.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Richard Watson. I've been a coastal geologist studying this coast and this island for over 50 years. I would like to point on that map. Is there a laser pointer by any chance here?
Just my little pointer thing, Richard.
Oh,
What can he point to?
can I walk up there? So I can point at it?
Yeah.
You can't hear?
Not if you're walking up there.
Oh, okay, all right, all right.
Can,
What?
tell David what to do.
All right, David, you see where that concrete driveway goes off to the right?
Yes, sir.
You're
This
right,
one.
that the intersection of that with Avenue B is where the worst flooding is, and it gets quite deep there,
Right in
okay?
there, yeah.
Now, the problem with drainage is it's steeply uphill going to the north up Avenue B. It's fairly steeply uphill going 12th Street to the south. In other words, everything is uphill out of the area where this water is going to drain. And I don't think there's any possible way to solve the drainage problem there, especially if more water flows in there from new developments, other than a pumping station to pump the drainage out, because it's uphill in every direction. There's no way you can just put in gutters, and it would be extremely, due to the elevation in this area, for instance, in front of my house there, which is to the left, the elevation in my yard is at 15 feet. Well, that area down there is lower, but it's not a whole lot lower. So you're almost surely going to have pump drainage. The other thing is, I don't see, apparently for this kind of flexible development change, it's supposed to be a benefit to the community. I don't see any benefit to the community. So maybe you should hold them at least to all of the codes. And maybe this drainage ought to get figured out. Sometimes you don't even want to drive a car through that area that's circled there. Now that road could be raised, but that's still going to cause even more drainage on the adjacent properties. And it's a real problem for whoever owns that property up that concrete road that's going off up there. So maybe it needs to be looked at by an engineer, but I suspect that it would have to be pumped drainage, not just flow downhill, because where are you going to take it? It's a long way with considerably higher elevation in each direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Hi, Dan P4, 127 12th Street. I didn't get a chance to email these, so I'm gonna pass them out. Thank you, sir. So these are, there are 3 pictures here that I took in
Thanks, Dan.
2015. After a pretty decent rain. These are my sons in a little pram. And the reason I'm showing you these, I think it's very good support for the previous speakers. You can see this water, you're basically looking at the water table here. Dave, is there any way you can show? I mean, I took one of these from
kind of like down in this area, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah. So one of them is from the edge of my house at 127 looking seaward, which would be the first picture. You're looking at the dunes in the background. At the top left of this first picture, you can see the garage at the Dunes condominium. So yeah, that's basically it, Dave. The second one is looking a bit more to the east. And the third one, I think, is probably the best to support our argument. You're looking direct, as I understand it, from the GLO survey, you're looking directly at Mr. McCann's property there. Now,
Those buses are in the Dunes parking lot.
that's the corner of the Dunes parking lot. I walked out there today, and that's still there post Harley. So that's it right there. Yeah. So I didn't realize this before, but Mr. McCann's property extends that far seaward to the southeast. I realize that right now we're talking about the proposed development on the northern end of his property, but you know, there are already, it looks like 3 lots that have been graded at the end of Dunes Way there. There's a dune protection line in there somewhere. But anyway, there's just, it's ephemeral wetlands. And I think they need to be preserved. I don't know where, I don't even know how you'd start to build on this. I guess you'd have to bring in fill and I mean, just be enormous volume of material that you'd have to build in. You'd create flooding problems on adjacent properties. So again, hopefully these are sort of dramatic support for the previous speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Betsy, you're going to speak to this as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Betsy Cherguy. I live at 206 12th Street. I'm concerned, as many of you are, that there is no public benefit to this particular development known as Agape Cove, which Mr. Kelby McCann prepared, took to planning and zoning for approval. It was a close vote. I can't remember exactly what the vote was, 4-3 in favor, 4-2. In any case, I'm asking you to not grant the special exceptions to our zoning code he is requesting. There are ample reasons. The first is drainage. I don't think I can cover it any better than Dan and Richard said, so I'm just going to move on from there. Mr. McCann at Planning and Zoning, and it's all on tape, said if we didn't like that idea, he could just put up a hotel on the property instead. Prior to that remark, he announced to P&Z he has already sold 6 lots. So he is, in my opinion, already not being truthful about the project. First to P&Z, second to the residents of the area, and third to you guys on City Council. In asking for a reduction to the front setback, he claims he is able to increase his permeable surface by a whopping 764 square feet, and that came from his handout. We know permeable versus non-permeable surface areas is a hot button issue right now, and he's trying to capitalize on that terminology to pretend that 764 square feet is a huge gift on his part to the natural environment. Keep in mind, he has 6 lots, so each lot has an additional 127 square feet of green space. Note that the lots are over 5,400 square feet each. So making the measly 127 is just a drop in the bucket. Then there's the issue of concern to all Port Aransans, and that's protection from fire. I don't know. I know Joellen was here when we had that horrible fire where your mom has her place at the private marina. 7 houses burnt very quickly. The predominant wind is from the southeast and most of the time, and that could easily happen to all the stuff coming down 12th Street. The other thing is he wants a reduction in the how wide the streets are. Well, if you look at the other end of 12th Street where that condo complex went in, and you look all the way up, a big fire truck cannot turn around. We don't want to see that at the other end of 12th Street. They made that mistake once. Let's not make the same mistake again. Feel free to make other mistakes. I was on P&Z for 9.5 years, and I visited the project areas under discussion before the meetings. And I hope that if you do put this on the hold, that you will go and investigate this and see that for yourself. I think Mr. Daly's comments, as well as your comments, were very, very instructive, and I hope that you will listen to the people who are most affected by this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, Luke Daly, 617 East Avenue, 619 East Avenue B.
Thank you.
Aransas.
And we got that.
You've seen some of this before,
Yeah.
but not all of it. And I am asking your forbearance. Some of my neighbors could not be here today. They have sent me letters to read for them. So I am going to need more than 3 minutes.
We're going to keep it at 3 minutes.
3 minutes for me.
We're going to
3
get,
minutes
no,
for each
that's,
person.
no, we're not, we don't do that. You get 3 minutes, so I'd keep going.
I'm going to read my neighbor's comments first. Dear City Council members, my name is Bo Julian and my wife Susan Mora. We are the property owners of 700 Lantana Drive, which backs up to the development in question. And we are full-time residents and have owned and lived in our home since 2006. We are very surprised to hear from our neighbors on March 29th, the day of the public hearing, that a flexible unit development was being proposed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had heard the lot behind our home had been sold and that only one single-family home would be built. We did not receive any notice of the public hearing for March 29th. And 3 hours before the hearing, our neighbors showed us the proposal of Agape Cove, which was shocking to us as one home turned into 9 homes. Again, we never received anything in the mail notifying us of any public hearing. This area is the old town of Port Aransas, and building of this massive home development will change the character of the area and reduce the value of our home. Our home was built by I.B. McGee in the late 1960s and sits on just a little under 1 acre. These homes in the area are all single-family homes with large lots, and we feel this development would devalue these homes and change the existing dunes and lowlands surrounding these properties. Another of our concerns is how this will affect the drainage problem that we have, and that this development will only make this problem worse, flood our property, which the area holds water during rainstorms. We are concerned drainage issue will damage our well equipment and can possibly get up into our home and sustain flooding in our house. This area of land also adjoins our neighbor Ed and Rita Reed, who also have the same issues. Please also consider limiting the use of the land as current zoning without the short-term rental use, as all the homes surrounding this property are long-term rental with no short-term. We are not opposed to building on lots, but we are opposed to changing the character of Port Aransas. Thank you for reading this letter and considering our concerns. Could the attorney just weigh in on whether if I could read these other comments?
Luke, if just because you come in with 20 people's letters doesn't mean you get 60 minutes. I mean,
Adjoining landowners who
Luke,
were
you
not,
Luke,
who were not,
Luke, you get your
told
3
of
minutes. You're
this.
wasting your time.
they were
Dave.
not told of this before the planning and
That's-
zoning meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem's job, not yours.
Gee, thanks, Steve.
As an adjoining, this is from Paul Sherrill. As an adjoining property owner to 711 East Avenue B, I am opposed to granting a flexible unit development permit to Kelby McCann for his Agape Cove. I am truly agape that he would propose this in an area that already has drainage problems. In addition, this proposal does not meet the intent or requirements for a flexible unit development. Section 25-311, it does not serve a public or community purpose, only a private purpose. It does not dedicate land for public benefit. It does not restrict the housing development to long-term housing only. It is not designed for workforce housing. I am extremely concerned by the allowances permitted as per section 25-312. Smaller dwelling size, higher density development projects, special residential use allowances, modification of street and sidewalk requirements, modification of lot requirements, frontage, total area, and dimensions for recreational vehicle manufactured home parks, subdivision, motor courts, modifications to required on-site parking, consideration of residential housing types not specified in current ordinances, reduction in open space requirements, modification of setback requirements, and a legal reduction of any building development fees. I am disappointed that I did not receive notice of the public hearing at Planning and Zoning Commission no less than 10 days before the March 29th, as required in section 25-314. In fact, I never received any notice at all of the hearing. It was brought to my attention by a neighbor. Furthermore, this concerns me because the developer has already circumvented city ordinances by selling lots in his Dunes Drive development before they have been platted with the city of Port Aransas. On March 29th, he stated that the lots in his proposed Agape Cove development are already sold to his friends, once again, before being platted with the city. In addition, in the sale of lots on Dunes Drive, there is a clause that gives him the right to buy back those lots and use them for short-term rentals. When he purchased both the properties, Dunes Drive and Avenue B at 12th, the seller was told that 2 owner-occupied homes would be built there. Now it seems it has grown to 9, not including the possibility for 9 additional auxiliary dwelling units, pretty close to 10 times what the seller was led to believe.
The developer seems to already use flexibility between what he says and what he does. Thank you for serving on the city council and working to keep Port Aransas a livable community. I have one more, very short, from the seller. To be specific, I sold the 2 lots, Beachfront and 12th Street, separately to 2 different parties. Somehow they have both ended up in the hands of Kelby McCann. The seller is Katrina Jenkins. Additionally, Kelby did communicate he was going to build his own house on the beachfront lot. As I understand, the area that he cleared and filled for building his house is now going to be multiple lots. While I do not object to multiple lots, I do object to the small lots proposed and the change from single dwelling residence to short-term rental units. This area is considered Old Port Aransas. I am not opposed to building on the lot, nor do I consider it my place to restrict its use. However, I believe that this development as proposed will change the character of the neighborhood and reduce the value of each of the surrounding properties, which are larger single residents with larger lots. I am very sorry to hear that this is the direction Mr. McCann is going, as that was not the intent communicated to me at the point of purchase. If it is at all possible, please consider limiting the use of the land as current zoning without short-term rental use. Thank you very much for
Okay,
your
thank you.
forbearance. That is from all adjoining property owners.
Thank you.
Okay, no more speakers on that? There is?
Yep.
Okay.
Hello, I'm William Welder. I live at 639 East Avenue B. Good evening, everyone. I share the same sentiments, and you've heard all of the details explained. The last May and June, when we had that rain here, the road the circle that was drawn on the map a while ago did hold water for, I don't know, I guess weeks, actually. It's kind of amazing how much that water stayed in that location. My brother has a house to the left, right in the curve on 12th. And the back side of this ephemeral pond that we're talking about right now, if you'll, the cursor to the left, come to the left a little more with the cursor. Okay, that whole area right there. Now, if you'll come up and to the left a little bit, come up and go to the left a little bit, keep coming to the left, and you're out of the, keep going. You need to move your picture just a little bit. Okay, right there. Yes, okay. Now come straight to the left. Okay, now down just a little bit. That's my brother's house. Okay, that little building right there. Last May and June, that had 4 inches of water in it, just from those rains. He had to replace the baseboards and, you know, the work that has to be done when those types of things happen. That was from without the included drainage that will be coming in from this proposal. I don't see how it's possible that type of water could be contained in any fashion that would make any sense. And that's my concern. I just hate to see us, not only with this drainage issue, but I hate to see us change the neighborhood. The complexity of this project is going to change Old Town, and there'll be no bringing that back once this occurs. But to me, probably one of the reasons that we've survived the way we have, even with inadequate drainage, is because of the ephemeral ponds that are located in these regions now. And that obviously can take away a lot of the problems that we have. But when we concrete in that much acreage and that water is diverted into that low, where Avenue B and 12 come together there, I think that's going to be an incredible detriment to that area. It's probably, to me, one of the worst things you could possibly do in that area. So I share the sentiment of the other residents in that area, and I live right there as well. And I hope that we can see better ways to improve the community and the town versus these types of projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to speak on this subject?
Yes, I would. Hi, Joan.
Hi.
My name is Lisa Turcott, and I live at 200 North 12th Street. Dave knows where I live, so put the cursor over there, please, for me, friend. And I'm just standing up here to tell you that what everybody that came before me said is true. It is the wetlands. I've lived there for 4 years. And It floods there, the water stays there. It's Old Town. We have to protect Old Town. There was a letter a while back to the editor about something about somebody saying, a council member saying something about STRs. And I remember in this summer when the mayor, Bouillon, was sitting right there and he said, I wish the STRs would go away. I wish there was a moratorium. He said those words. I heard them. I agree with him. I know it's not possible. I know the cat's already out of the bag. It's going to happen, but are we ever going to save anywhere in Port Aransas for the integrity that it once was? Are we? The council, I admire the work that you've done. I don't know about the previous councils, but I know 3,000 square feet for 20 houses doesn't make sense. 5,000 square feet for 8 houses is much better. Our house, family house on Avenue J, has been ruined. We just spent our family Easter there, and it's not fun anymore. So, and it used to be out in the boondocks. It was never considered Old Town, and we got there in 1957. I haven't lived here. I've lived in Kingsville and Sarita all my life until 2015. But I'm very passionate about it, and I give kudos to the new board members that have come and the old ones that are leaving and the deceased ones, my kudos. But what everybody said about that spot is true. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Other speakers on this? Celia?
My name is Cecilia Fox, and I live at 606 Lantana, a little bit further away from this suggested development. But Jo Ellen has been to my home, and she has seen my situation. And I have horrible flooding now, much worse now in the past 5 years, because of the developments and remodeling and swimming pools that have been put in by my neighbors. And there is one that is absolutely astronomical, and I don't know how it's going to work. And for the past 5 years, when they put in these pools and done all this stuff, another portion of my house has started to flood, which had never flooded before in 50 years that I have been there. And supposedly this new structure, what they're doing in their backyard, all the drainage is supposed to be going to the street. Well, once it gets to the street, it's going to be going right down to my corner. And there is not adequate drainage there for my home now. Does anybody care about all of us old people that have had these homes there for 50 years and have had to worry about flooding just because of a simple 6-inch rain? Okay, and then I would like to clear up a couple of facts. First of all, we are not against development, and we know it's coming. And it's going to happen, but we just want responsible development. That's what we're looking for. And I wish the developers would come and work with some of us in the community. I have a lot of good suggestions. Instead of the 6 lots, why don't you put it down to 4 lots, increase the size of the lot, and ask much more money for it? There is a house on Seabreeze, a lot on Seabreeze, that just sold. It's comparable to where this area is, just across the avenue there. And it's, well, I think they were asking about $850,000 for it. So, you know, I don't know what your cost of your lots were going to be, but decrease the number, the imprint on this property. I'm not against development. I don't think anyone else here, it's coming and it's here, but work with us to make this, to enhance the neighborhood. And what about, okay, my neighbor across the street, when she built her house, because we have this horrendous flooding problem, she built her house on stilts. And it is a beautiful, beautiful home. People, it's on the corner of Lantana and North 11th, and people stop constantly to see the home, see the yard, and it is on stilts. So you have not left an impenetrable surface underneath the home.
Thank you, Celia.
All right.
Okay, we can now go into citizens' comments and
I
reports.
think we had another.
So I'll just get a couple things out of the way. So you can see comments. Well, did you want to speak during your event? Sir?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kelly McCann. I live at 1418 Whispering Sands. I'll kind of try to address everybody here because got some pitchforks. All right, so my intention with the flexible development, by the way, was to not follow the city code because the city code is not the most beneficial thing for this area. For instance, in my concept A, which was to city code, or sorry, concept C was to city code, it means a road going all the way to the end, if that makes sense. And what I did is I just shortened the road. The only variance that I'm asking for is a shorter road, which is well within the fire code by 50 feet. And it just allowed for more penetratable surface. Like if I knew that everybody was this far against me providing more green space in a development you could just do as a condo regime, I'm not sure I would have done this. Like I'm really trying to take a piece of land that any other developer could take and they could ring it for all it's worth. And you think I'm doing that, but if you're a developer, you know I'm not. Any developer knows I'm not doing that because there's more here. And so what I was proposing and what I'm trying to do is shorten the road. I still gave the 20 foot on each side of the road and it's still a 30-foot road. Still the same size as a city street. And it's still the same setbacks. Everything's the same. The only thing I did was shorten it. And that means the city doesn't have to pay for that road. I pay for it. That's what I'm doing here. Now I understand the drainage issues. That's all of Port Aransas. I live on Whispering Sand. I can kayak from my house after a rainstorm. Literally can. The other thing is, I'm not sure that if there is a drainage issue, that's between me and the engineers. Like we have to figure that out. That's a problem that we have to figure out. I have other options, and I've talked to you about this. There's another piece of land connected to that land that I own, the other 3 lots. And it slopes down to dunes. There might be a way that I can actually move all of that drainage away from that street and all the way down to dunes. But I have to be given that opportunity with an engineer. And what a flexible development says is, hey, we like the idea. You need to get more specific about it. Let's move forward. And the benefit to the community is this, and this is it. Now, I mean, I have no problem dropping the flex development. That's not, I just throw a road down and that's fine. But the benefit to the community is less. It's less road. That's the benefit to the community. And they don't have to pay for the road. I'm really sorry that this came to be such a, I never expected this contention. My wife and I actually talked about it a lot. And so the first thing I want to do is say, I'm sorry for that contention. I actually meant for this to be a benefit. And just to talk about zoning real quick, it's already zoned. I didn't do that. The city did that. It's TR property, tourist residential. Half of it is tourist residential. It's 2 lots. And the other half is R1. Anyways, that's my time.
Okay,
I'll come back up.
Thank you. Anybody asking for any more? Okay, we will now go to citizens' comments. And the first one I have is Claude Brown.
Paul Brown, 318 6th Street, Port Aransas, Texas. Appreciate what y'all do. Good luck. I've always considered myself to be an extremely lucky individual in the fact that I had the ability to grow up in Port Aransas since I was born 64 years ago. I've dedicated thousands of hours to the volunteer fire department, various city projects, hurricane cleanup and recovery, underwater recovery of bodies off vessels that have sank and gone off the ferry land and so forth, and other local projects. I've dedicated my work talents to that are local to the city of Port Aransas and benefit the city's needs, the citizens' needs. I've operated heavy equipment and done welding and fabrication with a dream of someday owning a big shop building for my equipment and workspace. These dreams have been shattered by a couple of things. Number one, the blood-sucking leeches at the Nueces County Appraisal District, bleeding the working class people beyond the ability to survive here. Businesses cry for workers year in and year out. Working class people can't afford to live here. Property owners can't afford to provide affordable housing, so the government can continue uncontrolled spending, building their forged empires. It's amazing that the city maintenance workers have to work in a building that is so substandard that it should be condemned, and probably would be if OSHA was to pay the building a visit. Lord help a citizen who tried to operate in a building as the city continues to. The second thing that placed the straw that broke the camel's back is located right here in City Hall. Rick Adams, he has operated in such a manner and been allowed to without any repercussions whatsoever. First off, he acts under the color of authority as a code enforcement officer, to which he is not. He is not registered with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations as a licensed code enforcement officer. And I've been threatened by Rick Adams that I'd be cited over grass clippings from mowing my yard, while the grass clippings from his mowing was distributed into the street. And I got pictures if you'd like to have them. I parked a couple of my vehicles across the street to make room for the trucks and equipment to put down the concrete for my new shop. Promptly, letters were sent to the property owner threatening him with legal action if they were not removed immediately. Yet 150 feet west of me on Avenue C, the Farley Boat Works contractor continued to park heavy equipment for several months on another's property during the construction with no contact from the city, and is still parking there today. The city of Port Aransas parks trucks and heavy equipment on private property across the street from the maintenance department and still continues to park there currently. Rick Adams has on more than one occasion threatened the property owners with eviction. They've talked to me about it, and by the constable without due process of any court, which is totally illegal. While applying for my building permit, I was given a slip of paper with the money owed to the city for the permit. While standing at the window to pay for the permit, the paper was yanked from my hand, taken back to Rick's office, and that original amount was approximately $943. After returning with the paper, the new amount was almost $3,000. I was told I'd have to pay a capital recovery street improvement fee.
Thank you. That's it. Your time's up.
I'd like to request an additional time to finish this statement.
How much more time do you need?
1 minute.
All right.
Improve the cut and recovery fee for the street. Before I would be issued a permit, time restraints at hand, I paid the fee to continue with the project. I filed a written complaint that I was wrongly charged, to which I was correct, and the city was required to refund the incorrect amount added to my permit fee. Once again, Rick is a department head, and once again, he doesn't know his job. He finds humor in labeling myself, John Jensen, and Constable Robert Sherwood as troublemakers. He's a department head. He ought to have a little more class than that. Speaking of Rick's position with the city of Port Aransas, why is he even employed with the city of Port Aransas, much less a department head? After being involved in what I perceive to be a government fraud case where he was ordered to repay funds in which he and his partner will say misappropriated. I want everyone to always remember, evil only prevails when good men stand by and do nothing. This will be my last presentation to the city. I've opted to relocate my home and my business and seek relief from Rick and targeting me every chance he gets, and the blood-sucking leeches at the appraisal district. One more quote from Harry Truman. Once a government is committed to the principle of silencing the voice of the opposition, it has only one way to go, and that's down the path of increasingly repressive measures until it becomes a source of terror to the citizens and creates a country where everyone lies in fear. How about lengthening your 3-minute time limit for citizens to come to speak to this council?
Well, I think you could get it in 3 minutes. Doesn't sound like it.
I didn't like it. I got tired of it. It wore me down. But thank you very much for your time.
Will Foster.
Will Foster, 315 Oleander. And real quick on the last gentleman's talk, I saw the legal paperwork just the other day about Rick Adams and the $104,000 that him and his partner had to pay back. So that's legit. I've only lived here a little bit less than 2 years, but I've been coming here for over 27 years. So I've seen the arc, I've seen the changes, but I didn't really understand how they came about until I lived here and was part of the community. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the council and honorable people of Port Aransas, I would like to tell you a story of my friend Irish Mike. I live about a block away from my office, and I walk by his house several times a day. And we struck up a friendship. His cat Bailey even befriended my puppy Marley, which is sometimes unruly. Sometimes after work, I would stop by for a drink and discuss the problems of the world. Then one day, he told me he was getting forced out of the home he worked on. Yes, he was a renter, but he had a verbal agreement with the former owner to give him first opportunity to buy when the time came. And yes, we all know that a verbal agreement for real estate in Texas is non-binding. The home never even hit the MLS. It was a backroom deal, and I know which agent it was, and I know who the new owner is. The honorable people of Port Aransas are tired of our beloved characters being forced out of Port A. And it's not the big bad STR. It is our own people, the movers and shakers of Port A. I like to refer them as the oligarchs of Port Aransas. And how convenient that this oligarch is also on the Planning and Zoning Committee, and the cronies of the oligarch have already approved the parking variance, which is completely inappropriate and counter to the best interests of Port Aransas, as the former speakers have been talking about the flooding issues. They say, save it, don't pave it, for a reason. We have a serious flooding problem here, and adding more impervious color will only worsen the situation. So the oligarchs and their cronies kicked out a long-term renter for a wine bar. And so I'm going to work tirelessly at this election and future elections until all the oligarchs and their cronies are out, and we institute a new republic of the people, by the people, and for the people, as our distinguished founding fathers envisioned. That is all.
Thank you. Kim Powers. What'd you say?
She's gonna go after Roger.
Okay.
Roger's submit a note. We'll just- you can move
Okay,
down.
Gary Pepperidge.
Evening, everyone. My name is Gary Kleprick. I live at 330 Paradise Point, and I'm here to address, in not the fashion I think you're going to believe, not the fashion that you think, but I want to address the inconsistent code enforcement on signs, but not, like I said, to make accusations or anything. The question I have really is, why are anybody's signs being messed with to begin with? Okay. Look at this room, ladies and gentlemen. It's all seats are filled. We have very passionate people here. This election is very important to them. Every yearly election is important to them. Political signs running for local office has never been a problem before. Why is it all of a sudden now? Okay. Regardless of what you're campaigning on, what your view is, I don't believe anybody's sign should be messed with. I think that we should be allowed to do what we want to do here as far as getting the word out and actually talking to people and advertising for that. It's a very short time, okay? And I think that, once again, it hasn't been a problem before. Why is it all of a sudden a problem now? Everybody should have their signs out and not be messed with. And then in closing, I do want to remind the council of the email earlier this week. Dan Parker has failed to answer those questions, so I'm going to formally request that the council go ahead and look at that formally. And if you need to contact me, I am available. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Marsh.
Kenneth Marsh, 356 Blue Heron Drive, Port Aransas, Texas. Good evening, council members, city officials, and honored citizens. Recently, we had a meeting at the theater that concerned moving Port Aransas forward, I believe was the correct nomenclature that we had for that. We went down there and they gave a good presentation and asked for input from the citizens. And I did give them some input on their chalkboard. They assured me that we could make additional input at any time we wanted to, and we would be answered, and it would be put into the public for everyone to see. I have not been able to do that. I have tried and tried and tried. I have asked other people in my community to try to get some of their ideas in there. It hasn't happened. The website that those folks have got is not friendly, and it won't work. I've tried to contact them to the website. So I would ask that somebody with some authority gets to those people, because evidently the city is paying some funds. And we want somebody other than the city council and officials and the Chamber of Commerce to have some input. We also need some input from our visitors, because they got a process to it, what they expect out of our city in the next few years if they're going to be visitors. So that thing needs to be worked on so that we can get some input. Otherwise, it's going to be just like the last plans we've done, put it in file 13 and nothing's going to happen. So we don't need that again.
David, can you take care of that?
David,
Thank you,
just
we
point
will.
of clarif- the moving Porter Ends forward, that is the comprehensive plan.
Yes,
Correct. Okay, thank you.
The second thing is about the signs. I've been kind of watching this kind of humorously. I thought, well, what is this? You know, I mean, I kind of just slacked it off, but I didn't realize how important it is to some people until I found out that Rick Adams has initiated an action against the city. And so for him to do that, I'm thinking that must be a really, really important thing that I'm missing here somewhere, for that man to realize that he is going to either have to resign his position or take unpaid leave until this thing is over. So I mean, so it is a serious issue more than some folks have thought, and I didn't realize it was. And so I don't know how to solve that, but somebody needs to pay a little more attention to it, I think. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Roger Powers. Can we get it already?
Well, we got one from.
I've emailed all the documents to all city council members and the attorney last week on April 15th at 2:20 p.m. My name is Roger Powers. I live at 902 South 11th Street. All these are federal and city official documents, and they are indisputable. Number one, the federal lawsuit HUD versus South Texas Mortgage Corporation. Number two, Mr. Adams formed South Texas Mortgage Corp. in May 20th, 1996. STM was in business for originating conventional VA and FHA loans. The record established that STM allowed personnel other than its exclusive employees to originate 330 FHA assured loans. STM to pay HUD $104,000 in fines. Administrative Law Judge William C. Krager. Appeal by STM versus HUD, January 20th, 2006. U.S. Court of Appeals, 5th Circuit, 3 judges. On page 8, it quotes, and I quote this: the greatest weakness of STM position, Adams knew that the loan origination agreement was illegal well before it was uncovered by HUD. Worst of all, Adams appeared to have lied about his knowledge and actions in the first hearing. Petition is denied. Fine is $104,500. Mr. Parsons, are you aware of the legal entanglements when you hired Mr. Rick Adams? Is there any application or resume in Mr. Adams' personnel file? Now moving along. October 6, 2020, Mr. Richard Wayne Adams Jr. forms an LLC named Ansela Vista LLC, where he is 100% shareholder. October 30th, 2020, Ansela Vista LLC submits permit application to construct single-family townhome at 643 Anchor. Value of works is listed on the permit as $1,100,000, stamped by the city, but unsigned by contractor or authorized agent. October 30th, 2020, development plan review reviewed by N. Boyer and R. Adams, permit number 20-2870. January 8th, 2021, Mr. Adams orders a general warranty deed to transfer 5 lots on Anchor Drive, 633, 635, 639, 643, 645 into Ansela Vista LLC. Total valuation per the Nueces County Appraisal District is $71,000 total for all those lots, which is an average of $14,257. January 8th, Ansela Vista enters into a deed of trust and promissory note for $1,900,000 and pledges the 5 lots with value of $71,285. The deed of trust is issued by American Bank. Mr. Parsons, Do you have any knowledge of this? Did you give Mr. Adams written permission to act as a developer? While at the same time, the head of development services? Did Mr. Adams inform you in writing that he was going to be out of the office frequently to supervise this project? I'm almost finished, just a few more, 30 more seconds. Tuesday, January 25th, Rick Adams is using official Port Aransas City of email to send me email over to the water department to lock the meters. Subject line reads Ansela Vista LLC is official city email for personal business. Mr. Parsons, does the city allow employees to use their personal email or official email for personal business? Mr. Parsons, does the city have any type of policy, ethics, rules, or social media rules handbook for city employees?
Thank you, Roger.
I'm just almost wrapped up. This is the most important part. It really is. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Then we go to Government Ethics Code, CR 2635.02. Attorney, you will know this. An employee shall not use his public office for his own private gain. Approving building permits from Ansel Vista LLC, wholly owned
Time
by
is up.
Richard Wade Adams Jr. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Kim Powers. Kim.
Hi, my name is Kim Powers. I live at 902 South 11th Street. According to the agenda this evening, our city manager is up for his annual evaluation. It's obvious with all the evidence provided to the council members and the interim city attorney that Port Aransas has outgrown the skill set for our current city manager and our current assistant city manager. I think most agree that it's time to hire an outside firm to replace the current city manager and assistant manager with appropriate skill sets and cohesive mindsets with our council members, mayor, and city attorney. We must all remind ourselves that the city manager works for the city council. Also, with many investigations that have been going on behind the scene, this should be a priority. For those of you here tonight or watching from the comforts of your home, you are currently missing an important investigative report. So please tune in at 6 and 10 to KRIS TV, Channel 6 for some eye-opening information. There will be more coming down the pipe. My closing statement is that Port A shouldn't be locals versus non-locals. I'm so sick and tired of that term. There needs to be unity in the community. And if you keep doing the same things, you get the same results. Okay, city charter, section 3.1.15 inquiries by the city council. The city council should have the power to inquire into official conduct of any department, agency, office, officer, or employee of the city, provided that if the inquiry is about a department, agency, office, officer, or employee of the city who is under direction or control of the city manager, such as inquiry must be directed by the council as a body to the city. So in saying all of that, there's really no need for a council or a mayor because he makes all the decisions. Unless you all come together and agree with him, there's no need for you guys. The charter has to change. It has to involve more than one person making every single decision in this town. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Juan Lopez.
Good evening. My name is Juan Lopez, 2910 County Road 93 in Owadusi, Texas. Okay, I'm the co-owner of Paradise Pools located in Owadusi, Texas. Over the last 20 years, our company has built hundreds of swimming pools in the city of Port Aransas, and it has quite literally become a home away from home. We currently employ 28 daily workers and subcontractors and have acquired 57 permits for new pools since the beginning of this year, with the vast majority of these pools being within setbacks of the property. Therefore, if we were no longer able to build within these setbacks, we as well as our employees would essentially lose over 90% of the work that we rely on to provide for our families. Also, the city would lose the revenue brought in by said workers. Places like Ace Hardware, Sarsky Lumber, countless restaurants and hotels, and the owners of these properties would lose the ability to own a swimming pool, being that there is not sufficient room on most lots in town due to the sheer cost of land. I appreciate the council's consideration of how this item would affect ours and the city's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Davis.
Thank you. My issues have already been addressed.
Okay, thank you. Bobby Edwards.
Bobby Edwards, 1321 C Secret Street. I'm here about the sign. I wasn't going to get involved, but then the newspaper decided to run a story on it, so here I am. I had 5 signs lined up in my yard, all in a row. Only one was removed. Guess which one? That would be Miss Mott's. Is that a coincidence? Kind of don't think so. I have a recording on my phone of Miss Carla Van Zant telling us exactly where we could put signs. We needed clarification. It was to be where it couldn't be on city property, couldn't be in public right of way. What is public right of way? What is city property? It's my yard. We were told that it had to be behind telephone poles or on a fence line, or if that's not there, how about the property pins? I have this recording. I still have. Well, I went out today and took a few measurements. Didn't even do a full city block. I found poles at 3 foot 4 inches, 8 foot 10 inches, 12 foot 11 inches, 12 foot 9 inches, 16 foot 7 inches. Which one of those would you like me to put the sign at? Apparently, fences is my next choice. Okay. There's more verification differences in fences than there is in telephone poles. That's half a block. Hey, and the phone poles on my side of the street are in my backyard. I guess that means I can put them anywhere in my yard. Or nowhere. I could put them on neighbor's yard behind me. I'm responsible for mowing my front yard. I'm responsible for the taxes on my front yard. If I don't mow my yard, hey, I'm going to get a visit from code enforcement. They're going to write me a fine. Yet the city's claiming that is their property. According to Ms. Van Zant, city owns it. Well, damn, they better send city workers down to mow that. How about paying the taxes on it too? Because mine are getting damned awful high and it's getting hard to live here. I understand public right of way. I understand the need for it for public utilities, for sidewalks, but the city is abusing that right. Make a legal definition. Make an exact definition. Other places, 15 feet from center street, 15 feet in. Fine, I can measure that. I know where the signs go. Stop abusing this vague language. Stop using biased enforcement. You cannot say all my signs were in except one when they're all in a line. And if they were all out, why was only one picked up? There's a reason that little exchange happened that was released to the newspapers. Unfortunately, only one side of that exchange was released to the newspapers. Maybe the newspaper should have came around and talked to those of us who had our signs taken up. The signs were legally placed behind the poles.
Thank you. Kathy Bolton.
David, I just want to say, that has been a very soothing screen to look at. Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Fulton, and I am, oh gosh, I think it's like 1201 station, but I'm fixing to be back at another location here. And then hopefully towards the later in the year, I'm going to be back on Terrence. So, hi. So, anyway, my PO box is 457 was my address that I can remember. I'm a little, I'm only going to say something really quick about the signage thing, which is I sent this council an email a couple of weeks back, and I only got an acknowledgement from Councilwoman Kruger. And it was just a thank you, and I never got anything back from Mr. Parsons or anybody else, anybody addressing the issues that I raised, which were very similar to other people. But I must say that really honestly, how important is the signage issue on stuff like this when we've really got so many other important things going on right now that really are the what things that need attention. So I'm just going to move on, and I just am going to would like to say that I brought the city charter with me, the home charter rule. All right. And I'm going to read the very first sections, just the first sentence. Section 1.01, a municipal government provided under this chapter shall be known as a council manager form of government under its provisions. The city council, consisting of a mayor and council men and women elected by and responsible to the people, shall appoint a city manager who is responsible to the city council for administration of the government of the city. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because there is a resolution B on here about awarding request for qualifications. It's under 8B, city attorney services, setting terms and conditions. I don't really need to read it for the city manager to act as officer and authorized representative of the city in all matters pertaining to the contract. But here in the charter under section 4.04, it says appointment and qualifications, the city council in consultation with the city manager shall appoint a competent, duly qualified, licensed and practicing attorney in the state of Texas who shall serve as the city attorney. Skipping down, it goes through what the duties of the attorney are, and it says they will serve as a legal advisor to the city council and city manager and represent the city in litigation and legal proceedings, and then review and provide opinions as requested by the city council or city manager in contracts and legal agreements. I'm just pointing out that it is up to this council to make this decision first, not the city manager. This is one of the things we need to remember. We need to start following our city charter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all that want to speak?
We got more.
I did want to say, I hope you'll consider me for the Old Town Committee, and I think Ann wanted to come up and say something real quick.
Cheery. And say that I'm Ann Appling and I would love to be on.
Say your name and address.
That's right, y'all are the ones get to choose. I would love to be on the Old Town Board or president.
Name and
board.
address.
I'm not sure exactly what y'all are going to call it.
Address, Ann.
I didn't know she dragged me up here for this. 324 Marina Drive, Elizabeth Ann Shoemate Appling. Yes, I think it's important to, just that I think it's very important as we move forward to keep hold of our old town and not lose every speck of it. And I'm a person with a lot of ideas and I work hard. So please consider me for that preservation board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Will, what are you back up here for?
Well, I want to congratulate city staff in producing a very granular report that allows the council and the public an insight into the workings of the city. I'm sure you all saw it. It's interesting to note that golf cart licensing has gone up in volume by an average of 16% per year. Well, we're scorching there. Last year, there were 5,352 licenses issued. Now, if we continue to grow at 16% a year, by 2026, we're going to have 10,000 golf cart licenses issued. Well, I don't know what this place looks like with 10,000 golf carts, but I have an idea. Now, it was a good report. The building department issued 81 residential permits in the first 3 months of the fiscal year. That's scorching as well. Last year, 72 permits were issued in the whole of last fiscal year. If this
No,
pays-
I don't think that can't be right.
Sorry.
Well,
That's wrong. Same period.
in the same period?
Yeah, that's why it's in there.
Okay, my mistake. Well, we probably won't be needing to add a building inspector, as I was just going to suggest. Scotch that one. But it is a point of concern that our building permits are going out that fast. People had been upset with the pace of change, and they will continue to be. Now, I think it's also important to recognize the gas department for being able to increase their customer base by 50% in the last 5 years, while operating on a woefully inadequate space. You know, at a minimum, we need to have these guys in an adequate building. And while you're at it, consider building some employee housing. We have cut taxes repeatedly while failing to address our infrastructure and the needs of our employees. The roads are a mess. The drainage system is inadequate. Growth necessitates spending more money on infrastructure and labor.
Will, why don't you run for council?
I'm sorry.
Change all those things.
I don't have the heart for it, and I can't stand the summer. Growth necessitates spending money. None of this is free. So now what I'm pitching you on really earlier was negotiate with Kelby. Buy that lot. It's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than putting in drainage. Thank you.
Side setback changes were mentioned, and I would like to point out something that I think is important, and this does not affect me at any of the houses that I have. It's very beneficial for houses to be able to have the air conditioning unit on the side. And also, if they have an emergency generator, they're not going to want it in their backyard. You don't want to look at it in the front yard. And even more so, if it comes time to replace it, they certainly don't want to have to move it to be up to the current codes, because they'd have to move the plumbing and the wiring, which would be at worst, I mean, at best expensive, and at worst very difficult plus expensive. That's all. I think you should be careful about changing what can go in a side setback for that reason.
Thank you, Richard.
Any more cards?
Okay.
I'm Brian Zars. We got a place 1820 on the beach. I live at 4902 Corpus Christi. I'd like to speak on the building setback side of things. And I just wanted to voice my opinion on how I've always interpreted the building setback through different codes and different municipalities was any raised structure over 6 foot in height, which why most fences are 6 foot in height on that side of it there. The only time I've seen it differently is if it has something to do with a next to a river, a road, or something that could flood, which affected it on that way. So I haven't heard what the issue is on why the building setback line is being looked at as far as not being allowed to build swimming pools or have other things in that building setback line that are below 6 foot in height. So I just wanted to express how I interpreted the code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we are finished with that, and we'll go into.
Ma'am, before we open to executive session, can I make a procedural request?
What?
I would like to request that we move item 8B, which is RFQ for a city attorney services. Please postpone that for 1 month for 2 reasons. One of them is might be an issue with the current one, and the second one is I've had 2 candidates request that they would like to weigh in on it, and I don't think that would matter if we waited a month.
No.
So he's suggesting that we do not choose.
We table it. No, we table it
that
for a
we
month.
Table the city attorney decision for a month until a new council is seated.
No.
No. Joan, David?
I mean, this, as we all know, the city attorney is an at-will position, so it's somewhat moot, I think. I mean, if we appoint them tonight and there's a new council that comes in that wants to change, they are welcome to change at that point. So I don't know if I guess I don't understand what the point is, Bruce. I mean,
I've been requested by some candidates to. Oh, they would like to weigh in on
that they didn't put in for the RFQ. Are you saying?
Well, they would like to look over the RFQ. They don't have a vote on the council.
So
I'm sorry. There are candidates who approached me and would like to vote,
candidates.
candidates who would like
Oh,
to vote on
okay.
the RFQ or vote on the city attorney.
When and if a candidate's elected, they can choose to do
That is
whatever they
correct. Well,
wish.
they just asked,
Yes.
they just asked if they could.
Okay.
Okay, it's fine.
Well, it makes sense to wait until it's a new council, I would think.
But if they say no, that's fine. This is, I was asked, I'm asking, you say no. Okay, but.
Can you wait for
but
me to read all this stuff?
Well, it's not worth arguing. That's fine. I made, answer my request, and
Maybe you can
if
just stand.
the council says
While
no,
I'm
then we're
reading
moving
this,
on.
let's do it. Okay, we're going to go into executive session. Section 551074 to discuss personnel matters involving the appointment, employment, annual evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint against an officer or employee known as the city manager. Section 551.
I'll be doing mine in public, Mayor.
Okay.
Your evaluation?
Yes.
So.
Will we do yours last then? Move yours to the end?
Or now?
Or do you want to do it now before everybody leaves?
You can do it now while everyone's in here.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah, then it's easier.
Okay.
Everybody sit back down if you
Yep.
wish. Yeah.
Sit back down.
Okay, we're going to discuss personnel matters in public. If you'd like to stay. I don't know, is this too confusing or not?
No, I think some of them want to leave.
Okay, we are going to discuss personnel matters involving the appointment, employment, annual evaluation, reassignment, duties, disciplines of a public officer or employee, to hear complaint against an officer or employee known as the city manager. Okay, so we had an evaluation form that we filled out. And usually the forms are sent to the mayor, and the mayor makes a summary of all the evaluations, and then points out minor or major issues that there are. But I didn't get those. I don't know why.
I did send it, but it was.
Who'd you send it to?
I sent it to you, but it was this afternoon. So,
Oh,
yeah.
and you sent it to me? Well, I didn't get it. Did you send it in my city mail? Huh.
Just discussing. So.
Anyway, I
Proceed,
can't
Mayor
do
Pro
it
Tem.
that way since I only have two. So these were Bruce and mine. Good to excellent in most areas. There were a couple that were considered needing work. And in general, we had a good evaluation with emphasis on his professional skills and status and his ability to work with the council.
I have mine if you want.
Okay,
Can I have it back when you get?
yes, well, aren't we going to give him, turn him in?
Yeah, you turn them in.
I mean, do you want us to read these individually, Joan, or how would you? like
No, we
to
generally just
proceed?
average them, is the way it's always been done.
But,
That's what the-
but maybe since it's
Two
not
comments
done,
At the bottom though,
Sure.
right? There's
Right.
areas for comments.
right?
So I mean.
No, I guess if you want,
I'll whatever you'd like.
if y'all want to read, actually, really, it's up to Joan.
Really,
What do you
I
think?
think
Are
if you would
we
like to.
doing this in open session? Did we decide that?
He decided to have this.
Well, what we'd like to know is where he's doing well and where we suggest that he get a different perspective or do something that would be.
Yeah, give that back so I can.
I'm going to recommend that we consider a performance improvement plan for Mr. Parsons. And I would like to read that when y'all are ready.
Okay.
Well, you want to start, we already comments, is that what we're doing, this whole?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you want me to start since I'm here?
Sure.
Okay. So we have, what are the accomplishments of the city manager? Managing harbor rebuild of fishing piers, rebuilding the birding center, obviously the Harvey stuff, but that's ongoing. Managing polarizing political environment. Major failures I see is deteriorating city morale due to political environment. And I feel his loss before your legal team was a detriment to the city.
Okay.
Right, Tim, you can start first.
So we're just reading.
We're just reading the comments there.
Okay.
Well, I don't think that's all there is. I mean, if there are
Well-
areas that you think that he is only doing fairly or poorly, I think you can talk about those.
Sure.
I'm okay if you want to. I don't care.
However you want to go.
I mean, I will, as I am, yeah, I'll be incredibly blunt. I think Dave is bright. You have good background and knowledge on the affairs of the city as a whole. Your understanding of some of the unique problems facing Port Aransas are top notch. Working with the council, you were keen in coming up with some of the zoning ordinances, novel funding approaches, capabilities, emergency services, supported many changes that we worked on here with, for example, beach parking, beach road funding, host of other issues. If your job were simply knowledge and action, you'd be a very good city manager. However, I think that on the major failures portion, Dave, follow up with the council is poor in many aspects. Your evaluation is left blank because on several questions, I just couldn't evaluate. I mean, there was a question about asking about discussing personnel issues. I've
Right,
never
yeah.
heard anything. So to my memory, I cannot rate those efforts. Recruiting talent, I think, is a 1. Joan, even you last year on your evaluation, you mentioned Dave needs to get a assistant city manager, and we still sit here now a year later and we still don't have one. So, I mean, I can't rate that very highly, Dave. I think that's key for the city, and it's also required by the charter. Some other really harsh points, I think Dave does not accept criticism and instead responds with anger and resistance, frequently raising your voice. It's really unacceptable behavior for a city manager. I provided some examples last council meeting. Just this week, I called up and was discussing with you on the phone about a legal matter, and you began shouting at me on the phone over a disagreement on enforcing sign ordinances. In most cases, when there are disagreements, you don't take the time to listen and understand other points of view and opinions and perspectives. Overall, your background, your intelligence, your knowledge are overshadowed by that lack of ability to accept criticism and appreciate different points of view. This is so frustrating, and I think this brings up why you see in this audience here, there's such a polarization, because if your agreements are with Dave Parsons, you see only his benefits and you see the things that he does extraordinarily well. But if you cross Dave and if you're on the other side, then you only see the bad part of his behaviors. And I think that's reflected exactly in this city right now, is you have people on one side or the other. It's also clear to me personally that your attitude filters down to the rest of the staff. And I'll repeat the comments from the last meeting. I really think that you could excel if you could control your anger. I think anger management courses might be useful. And I also say hiring a city manager, an assistant city manager might help, as it would reduce your workload, your stress, and allow you to force on the leadership activities. So, yep, I'm sorry. Was there a comment?
Yes, sir, if I may.
No, you actually can't. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you may
It's
not.
not public.
So
You
bottom
don't
line-
even be here.
So bottom line, that's my things, Dave. I mean, I really think by not getting a city manager, you're really killing your assistant city manager, you're killing yourself. Anyone else? Tim, you have comments?
I mean, that's, I agree with most of those areas. I think sometimes we get stonewalled by Dave.
Can't hear you, Tim.
As far as Dave working with city council, I feel at times we get stonewalled by him and don't get all the information that's needed to make the proper decisions.
That'd be one of the things I'd like to add to that.
Joellen?
Oh. Well, I agree with Dave and Tim quite a bit, but I did appreciate, Dave, you helping us with changing the density ordinances and handling that. I know.
And the
Mayor-
heights,
Huh?
and the heights and.
Yeah, and well, that was all in there, but I mean, I know the mayor, Mayor Bouillon really appreciated that also.
Right. Right.
And so, but I did have a few things about just being informing the council on major developments, the timber citing laws that are incorrect. And city manager is to work with all elected council members, whether you like them or not. And we do need assistant city manager as well, as Joan stated in last year. So those are my few things.
I took the time to type up a performance improvement plan. I'm going to read it. You guys do with it what you will. I'll just read it. Mr. Parsons is the Port Aransas City Manager in an at-will position. Accordingly, the Performance Improvement Plan, or PIP, will be specific with actionable items and due dates to address in a timely manner the following 5 performance deficiencies and behaviors and expected results achieved. Number 1, failure to appropriately model and demonstrate leadership behaviors for the city staff commensurate with his position as city manager. Failure to characterize agenda items accurately as evidenced in this meeting for the agenda item regarding this review. Failure to send dates to council regarding the city manager workshop that was discussed in January. Meeting date, October 2021, outburst directed at council member Tim Park. Meeting date, February 2022, outburst directed at city council members specific to the replacement of the city attorney. Disrespecting the interim city attorney on multiple occasions in front of staff or with the knowledge of staff. Failure to assist council in solving problems at the administrative level to avoid unnecessary council action. 3 examples would be the 510 Trojan, 329 White, and 906 South 11th properties. Specific corrective actions are needed to address anger management issues. Anger management counseling is recommended. Number 2, failure to maintain professionalism of city staff as evidenced by the lack of establishing, communicating, and enforcing standards and expectation for the city staff when communicating in an official capacity with the press or other outside groups. Specific recent examples include, but are not limited to, the inappropriate public comments by senior Port Aransas staff, Chief of Police writing in his official column in the South Jetty inappropriately and apparently intended as jest that were interpreted as degrading to the sexual orientation of some city residents, city employees, and city guests. Inappropriate release of communication between city council members and the Port Aransas Development Services Manager. Number 3, failure to enforce a common set of standards and expectations of city staff. Specific recent examples include, but are not limited to, Chief of Police allowing 2+ years to pass without consistently enforcing current ordinances and state laws at the 510 Trojan property. Chief of Police not consistently enforcing golf cart usage on State Highway 361. Department of Development Services inconsistent enforcement of codes, ordinances in general. Code enforcement officer, the Director of Development Services selectively and inconsistently enforced sign and flagging ordinances on selected city businesses and in candidate signage for the May 7th election. Number 4, failure to hold city personnel accountable in accordance with ethics and specific factors sections of the Personnel Handbook. Section 1002(1), prior employment. A director under Parsons' authority was found to have engaged in fraudulent, illegal activity. This has already been covered this evening, I think. fraudulent illegal activity in case number HUD ALJ 04-003-MR, United States of America, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Office of Administrative Law Judges prior to employment with the City of Port Aransas. Section 10.022, improper conduct, criminal, dishonest, infamous, notoriously disgraceful conduct. 3, dishonesty, falsifying official city reports. 6, misconduct, including unethical conduct during or off work hours, which could have an adverse effect on the city or the confidence of the public in the integrity of the city government. Specifically, June 9th, 2021, an employee under Parsons Authority was issued a written warning by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for engaging in an activity that constitutes dishonesty, misrepresentation, or fraud while performing as a registrant. On 9/27/2017, in a sworn affidavit filed with the Nueces County Court, Mr. Parsons stated that the city has adopted the city manager form of government and set forth in this charter. Mr. Parsons misrepresented his bounds of authority. On November 3rd, 2021, Dave Parsons presented a November to-do list under the heading of Palladium, Port Aransas. 1, it states 4 to 6 weeks of paychecks, not W-2s, lowest earning season possible. Once they're approved and in, they never get checked on salary again. Owners will have to work with employees. Mr. Parsons was giving instruction on how to fraudulently manipulate eligibility requirements for residency at the Palladium. Number 5, failure to effectively track key city priorities specific to common council and public interest. Specifically, Mr. Parsons has not identified and designated a lead person on staff as a single point of contact, SPOC, responsible for completion of several key city projects. Corrective actions are to include a SPOC for each city priority of common council and public interest. This is to include committed project completion dates and the tracking of key milestones to ensure that the committed dates are met. Project milestones report outs are to be at least monthly, with updates provided to the public at each city council meeting. At a minimum, these report outs are to include current status, project challenges, and proposed mitigation actions that have the potential to impact priority completion dates. As directed by the City Council, specific projects in need of tracking include but are not limited to Beach Access Road 1B, move-in ready date for city, police, fire, and EMS, presentation of the city's comprehensive plan moving forward with our past to City Council for final approval. Completion and full implementation date of the city's STR registration database, completion of funded airport improvements, publication and posting on the city's webpage, a copy of the current city organizational chart and reporting relationships, current list of proposed residential, commercial, and industrial development entities within city limits, and the project's proposed completion dates, updated emergency response times and evacuation route time studies for the residents and visitors during routine city operation and high tourism windows such as Sandfest, Spring Break, Memorial Day to Labor Day. Status and completion date of the hiring initiative for an assistant city manager. Davis to complete his submission of an actionable PIP complete with specific due dates to the Port Aransas City Council for review and approval within 10 working days. Timeline for improvement, consequences, and expectations. Effective immediately, you are placed on a 30-day PIP. During this time, you will be expected to progress on the plan outlined above. Failure to meet or exceed these expectations or any display of gross misconduct may result in action up to and including termination. In addition, if there is no significant improvement to indicate that the expectations and goals will be met within the timeline indicated in this PIP, your employment may be terminated prior to 30 days. Failure to maintain performance expectations after the completion of the PIP may result in additional disciplinary action up to and including termination. Additionally, this PIP does not alter your employment at will relationship, and the city council may take additional employment action at any time. It is expected that the specific contents of this PIP remain privileged and confidential unless otherwise directed by the Port Aransas City Charter, Texas Open Meetings Act, or the Texas Public Information Act. Should you have questions or concerns regarding PIP content, you will be expected to follow up directly with the Port Aransas City Council. You are expected to meet with the City Council to review your progress as documented in the body of this PIP. Please schedule accordingly. And then signatures. That's what I propose.
I disagree with
I
that.
agree with that.
I mean, that's just amazing. We wouldn't have a city manager do anything. We'd have to hire 2 more city managers to do all
And I
that.
will, and I'm going to say, I don't think it's Dave's fault that we don't have an assistant city manager because this position has been advertised and it's like everything else. It's hard finding people. You go everywhere, there's help wanted sign.
Yeah,
Port Aransas is not
we
cheap.
were told, we were told the same thing on the city attorneys, and we had 5 RFQs within a month, correct?
Yes, but none of them are in the area.
So, a bottom line is, I think
somebody
what
is.
you're doing right now is good, and you've got a company, a headhunting company going
Right.
out and looking for them, okay?
Right.
I can excuse a lot, but your anger outbursts, I just can't, Dave.
So why don't we
Bottom line.
just say he needs anger management course? That would be good for him and be good for his,
That's not the only issue, Joan.
that's the major
No,
issue.
it's not really. To me, it's not.
Well-
It might be to Dave, but it's not.
It is to me.
Well, great.
It is.
Well, then that's in here that he takes anger management.
But I think all the things that you're suggesting are just way too much, too
And
detailed.
you're entitled to think that.
Okay,
but
I do.
We're having a discussion and everybody needs to put their 2 cents in.
I mean, I think that it's good for him to have anger management, so he's not blowing his top and having heart problems and all those sorts of things. And it's really good for us to have you be calm and
Well, I'm gonna say it'll be good for your health when you have an assistant, when you can not have everything on your shoulders, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's obviously in your best interest to hire someone, but
he would like to, I hope.
I think it's grossly unfair to blame Mr. Parsons for other editorials and things that other people write in the paper and is taken incorrect or correctly and misinterpreted. I don't think it's fair to blame Mr. Parsons for that.
I think there's management issues. I do. Or lack thereof.
How would you know?
I don't think he needs to micromanage.
Obvious.
manager?
Did you not listen to what I just
did, but are you a
presented?
manager? Do you
I
know
don't
those
think,
sorts
I
of
don't
things?
think he needs to micromanage his people. I think you give him a project, like you say, we as a council, we want golf carts on the highway to be cut down, fewer golf carts on the highway. We don't go out there and count, 5 police cars were there for only 30 minutes today, so they're obviously not doing their job. If we still feel it's a problem, then we go back and we say, look, we feel that this not being adequately addressed. But we don't go out there and say, well, you're not doing your job or y'all.
Well, the problem is we've been doing that over and over and over, and the inconsistencies are still pretty.
Well, I will say the flip side is we have a small police force, and while the people who are patrolling 361 are not on the beach, they're not patrolling homes and other things as well. So you can't be everywhere at once and you can't catch everything.
I did get a comment today from the Parks and Rec, and they were worried about what was going on this evening and said, I want you to know that we really do work very well with David, that he listens to us and he helps us on issues that we have. And we feel very comfortable with having him as city manager. So there are certainly people that work in the department that are quite pleased with his.
And I am not,
what
I
manager.
agree. I'm not with Dave 24 hours a day, but when I've seen him with Colleen, when I've seen him with Darla, it's never like, he's belittling them. He's always like, encouraging them and say, hey, let's try this way, instead of just like, this is my way or the highway kind of thing. I don't find him doing that. You may disagree on some of the stuff. Sometimes people do need a little extra guidance, but I don't find him, again, micromanaging everybody. And I think that that's the worst kind of manager you can have.
I'm going to motion to implement the performance improvement plan. You guys can vote yes or no, however you want.
We don't vote in executive session, but we do have to come to some consensus on how to direct the city manager in his future.
We get comments from Dave. I mean, typically, when I do performance management, it's a one-on-one in the private sector. So this is very different. So normally I would get feedback from the individual after giving constructive feedback.
No, I mean, I'm not in disagreement. Yeah, I get, you know, I can get my feelings elevated at times, so I don't discredit you in that comment. So I do know that's something I need to work on. So I am willing to work on that issue.
Sure. And I just find that with a assistant city manager, you're going to find your job a lot less stressful and hopefully lower blood pressure. So.
Would you be willing to, I don't even know how you do anger management control, but someone would come and visit with you, or you'd visit with them several times?
Can we put a punching bag in your
regularly or something?
No, I think you can, personnel would reach out to
TML or
TML offers.
That would be what I would move to do.
All right. Well, I think we're just giving recommendations. We don't actually vote on this, do we? I mean,
My understanding is this is a performance review.
Yes.
Again, I would prefer it be done in private, but
I agree.
in public, that's okay. And I guess it would only come to a point where if any of the other council members, and then we'd have to get attorney to get involved in that. So,
Mayor Pro Tem, may I speak?
Yes.
So we are in discussing the evaluation of the city manager, and you do have another agenda item thereafter, which allows you to take any action of items discussed in closed executive session.
Of course, we're not closed.
Yes, we're also open, so you can still come back out or in, however you want to describe it. But there is an agenda item for you to take action. So I wanted to clarify to Councilmember Mott that she can make a motion on what she'd like to have done, but she just can't do it on this agenda item. We'll have to get to the action agenda item.
Thank you. Okay.
Anything else?
Tim, Ellen, any other comments?
No, not at this time.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, please.
May I?
Yeah.
Thank you. No. I was asked to come to the city of Port Aransas on an interim basis to provide legal services due to some disruption in the legal services that you had before. And what I would much rather say this in private, I will not be allowed to not say it in open because Mr. Parsons has selected that to be done. When I first met with Mr. Parsons and the city staff, it was less than just a couple of days after I had been appointed as an interim. I was immediately told by Mr. Parsons in that conversation with other staff members that I report directly to him. I do not report directly to him. I report to the city council and I work with him. I should work with him. I should have a very good, close working relationships with Mr. Parsons on a daily basis. I should be able to feel free to call him 24/7 and him likewise with me. I want to form that relationship if I'm appointed the permanent city attorney, but I want to make sure that this council is clear and Mr. Parsons is clear that whether it be me or another wonderful law firm that represents this amazing city, that the city attorney is appointed and reports to the city council and should have a very good working relationship altogether. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe in the charter, it says reports to the city council and the city manager.
It works with the city council and the city manager, but
Right.
it's appointed by the city council.
Right.
So if the appointment of the city
Right, the
council can
appointment is the
hire
city
you and
council.
fire you, then that's firing.
I think your comment that you made to staff first was that you reported only to city council. And there's witnesses in that room that could repeat that sentence. What I did was I clarified and I read the three items in the charter. Number one, serve as legal advisor to the city council and the city manager. Number two, represent the city in litigation and legal proceedings as directed by the city council and the city manager. Number three, review and provide opinions as requested by the city council or the city manager on contracts, legal instruments, and ordinance of the city. So your comment to my staff team, your first day, when you looked at me and said, I don't report to you, I took issue with that because it's incorrect. And I didn't appreciate it.
Do you agree?
Sorry,
You agree with that?
I do not agree with that. Mr.
And I think your
Parsons did
comment to
not-
me was, well, it remained, well, we'll see how council weighs in on that charter. And I said, I don't think the charter's up for interpretation. And you
I'm
besmirched
alarmed,
me. So
actually, Mr. Parsons, that's your incorrect recollection. But we will allow for different viewpoints to recall what happened.
Right.
What I certainly want to make certain is that the permanent city attorney understands and agrees to work with the council and the city manager. And since the city council does appoint the city attorney, that the city attorney needs to have a very good, close working relationship with the city council.
Right.
and the city manager.
And the city manager.
Of course.
Yeah, you tend to keep leaving that off.
No, I just want to clarify because I feel like you leave the city council out, sir. But that's my personal opinion, and I didn't choose to have this in open session. But it's important for me as a city attorney to make sure that the representatives of this town, which include the citizens, are fully and functionally aware that I felt as the interim city attorney that I was going to be blocked. And I should not, nor should any city attorney in the future be blocked from the council.
No, I
and
simply read the charter. If, I don't know where you're coming up with.
Okay, let's not
I don't know
debate
where
the
you're
charter
coming up
right
with the
now.
word
You-
blocked.
I think y'all both said your piece, and
Yeah, that's it.
I think we're gonna.
Anybody want any more comments on David before we go into closed session? You still haven't gone. You did go.
I did go.
Okay. Are you want to have any more comments?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And I guess the executive session, we will then go section 551.
Do we need, I'm sorry, do we need to read the executive closing or the preamble again, since we're kicking everybody out?
Okay, we're going into executive session now. I have to read all of these though.
Just,
To
you don't need to
discuss-
read the first one, just.
To discuss
2, 3, and 4.
personnel matters involving the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, disciplines of a public officer or employee known as the city attorney. And section 551071 of the Texas Open Meeting Act to meet with its attorneys to seek legal advice on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the city council under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meeting Act regarding a notice of potential claim filed by Richard Rick Adams against the city and city council member Tina Mott. And section 551072 of the Texas Open Meeting Act to discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property because the deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect of the position of the city in negotiations with a third person relating 430 North Allister Street, Port Aransas, Texas, the Nueces County property, ID number 183378.
Okay. Sorry, no need to read, but y'all gotta go.
John, can we take